Welcome, everybody. This is the DVMUG Zoom meeting for Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. We actually have some news this week. Of course, if you weren't here last week, it was 7 new products released last week, and 6 of them we knew about, and I told you about in the meeting last week, and 1 came out on Wednesday, and it is exactly what the rumors were, so we'll get into that. And then we have some videos mostly about the new stuff. And I'll move on to the news. Go forward, please. There we go. There was an OS update, 26.3.1. All it is it adds support for the new studio displays for the, and if you, not the old studio displays that Ken and Ann have, those are the new ones. So there's some mysterious bug fixes they didn't specify. So it's not really critical that you do this unless you bought a new studio display, which hasn't even shipped yet, I don't think. Then the biggest news is, which is exactly what the rumor says, the MacBook Neo. And we'll have some information about that. And there's also a new book out from David Pogue on the 50th anniversary, and we'll have some news and a video about that. Okay. First news item. Here's the 26.3.1 update for Tahoe, iPad, and iOS. It doesn't say there was any other updates because there's no security updates in this. There's a minor issue for Vision Pro video flicker, but I don't think any of you have that. So not a big deal. MacBook Neo. This is a pretty good article. If you're interested in this, get the link and go read it. It has all the information you need, all the specs. And this is the information, and this is a chart they have in there comparing it with a MacBook Air and what's the difference in each feature. It's interesting. It looks kind of like a MacBook Air, but everything is completely different. Everything. Processor, the display, the keyboard, the trackpad, the ports, the speakers, it's all different. And it's a little dumbed down, but it's only $600. $700 if you want. There are only 2 models, 600 for the base, which has 256 gigs, or 700, you get 512 gigs and the Touch ID. That's the only difference. Comes in 4 colors. So it's pretty interesting. We'll have a video about it, about the specs, the other, a little bit later. This is something that I only saw one place. It wasn't in most of the other news, which is kind of interesting. The AppleCare Plus repair fees are lower on this, quite a bit lower, like half as much. So that's good. I think the AppleCare itself is actually cheaper, plus any, whatever the deductible if you break the screen or something, like $50 instead of $100. That was pretty interesting. Only I saw that one place. Any comments or questions on the news about this? We'll have some videos about it later. Anybody? Nobody interested in this?
Yeah,
Love the
interested.
colors.
4 colors, they're kind of muted. There's a silver one, or a dark colored one that's kind of blackish. I forget what they call it. It's supposed to be a blue tone. And then there's a pinkish one called blush. And then there's a lemon yellow kind of one. Not very strong colors, not like the cosmic orange iPhone. Okay.
Those batteries aren't rechargeable, right? I mean,
Rechargeable.
you charge them, you keep it charged, but it's eventually gonna, never mind. That's okay.
They're basically, if you weren't paying attention and you didn't know MacBooks, you would think it was a MacBook Air. It very similar in appearance, but it's all different in every way and slightly different size. It's kind of every feature has been decontented to get the price down, but it's still a full-blown MacBook. It does everything you need to do. And educational price is $500 and $600. So $500 for kids. The MacBook Air now base price is $1,100. So it's almost half the price. So there you go. Move forward.
A lot of that price increase is eaten up by extended storage.
Right, the MacBook Air, the price went up 100, but you get 512 instead of 256, so it's actually $100 cheaper than it used to be. But there's no more 256 base option. Okay, new book comes out today. Apple, the First 50 Years by David Probe, who, as you know, he's really good. He wrote all the missing manual books, and it's 600 pages. It's $50, and it also I have there's an extended video of him interviewing Tim Cook that came out Sunday. It's 20 minutes, so I'm not going to show it during the meeting, but you get the news links. You can click on it, go watch it on YouTube, okay? We'll have a short 5-minute video of the CBS with David Pogue and a little bit of Tim Cook in the videos. This looks to be a really interesting book. Comments or questions about the book or the 50th anniversary? Nobody?
Video is
Okay.
good. I watched it.
Yeah, the Tim Cook video is good. The CBS one is kind of like, it's kind of a promotional thing. Okay. Here's our videos. Okay, we're going to have a little short one about this iPhone 17e from Apple. Then we got an 8-minute segment from CBS. What is it, CBS This Morning with Pogue and Tim Cook. Then we have MacBooks, Gary, which just came out this morning about the differences of the MacBook. I thought that was really good. Then a little one about the 17e and one about the new M4 iPad Air. Okay, here we go. This is the real short one from Apple. Now I have to pause the recording here because they'll take us down if I don't in the YouTube. So I'm going to pause it. Move forward. Here we go. Play.
You're still recording, I think.
I'm not getting the video. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
I'm not getting anything.
I'm not either.
That book came out today. There is let's see, on the next slide. Yeah, that's the end of that. Okay, so this is the end of this part. So comments and questions about that, what we just saw?
I thought it was very well presented.
Yeah. The 20-minute video, some of those episodes, when David Pogue was talking to Tim Cook at Apple Park, those are cut out of the full 20-minute one with no interruption, just him one-on-one. So that is a link in the news. You can go watch it. That's very good. Okay. Shall we move forward?
Do you know if the book's available in digital form?
I believe so. I think it's available as an ebook. It's $50, I think. Rick said he found somewhere where it was $38. I don't know where that was, Rick.
I'm trying to remember some bookstore I found online. I just searched for it on Google. I said, "Is there a cheaper
Hi, this is
price?"
Well, that's interesting. Where did my video list go? I had a list of videos anyway. Here we go. So, oh, this one I don't have to. This was released this morning. This is Gary talking about what's different about this Neo. So I haven't even watched this yet. Here we go.
Hi, this is Gary with MacBooks.com. Let's take a look at what makes the MacBook Neo different. Now, the MacBook Neo is not just a lower-end MacBook Air, nor is it a new version of the previous model named just the MacBook. It's a very different model that makes a lot of different compromises to bring down the price. Let's take a look at what really makes the Neo different. Now, I really do have to start by talking about price. That's a major difference, not because it's the reason for almost all of the other design decisions around the MacBook Neo, but because it's a very different price than Apple's had before. If you look at all of the models named MacBook, since Apple started using that name for their laptops, there's nothing that even comes close. In 2006, the first MacBook was actually $1,099, much more than the $599 starting price for the Neo. And if you adjust that for inflation, it would be $1,750 today. So you can see it's a big difference. Now, some of Apple's MacBook Air models actually went lower than that, but never below $999 for the base price. And again, that was a while ago, so adjust that for inflation. In fact, only one model actually came close to this price, and that was the 2020 M1 MacBook Air. This model was for $799 at the base, and that was for a measly 128 gigs of storage. Now, jumping into the physical differences here, you have to start with the processor because that's what really makes this different. Apple's never come out with a Mac using their A series processors. Those are the ones that go into the iPhones. And for the MacBook Neo, Apple's using the A18 Pro, which we previously saw in the iPhone 16 Pro. So the A processors for the iPhones and a lot of iPads and the M processors are, of course, related, and they're developed by Apple. So it makes sense that they could run Mac OS. Matter of fact, the original developer kit for the M series Macs was actually an A series processor. Now, the A18 has fewer CPU and GPU cores than any M processor, but that doesn't actually affect single core performance. And in fact, for tasks that just use one CPU core, which are a lot of things that regular people do all the time, it's going to be pretty fast, actually kind of similar to an M4 Mac. So you're not going to notice too much performance difference there. But if you're doing things that use multiple cores, like rendering video or doing 3D graphics, for instance, then you're going to notice the difference, and it's going to seem more like an M1 Mac than an M4 Mac. But there are huge benefits here. In addition to the cost of the A18 Pro being cheaper than the M series processors, it's also very energy efficient because it's meant to go into iPhones. So it's going to save on energy consumption, which will allow Apple to have a smaller battery, which we'll get to in a minute. Another way that the MacBook Neo is different than previous MacBooks is it has fewer options than ever before. Usually Apple gives you a bunch of different memory and storage options. And for MacBook Pros, sometimes additional screen options and other things as well. But for the MacBook Neo, you get exactly two options, and that's it. No more. You get the base model, and you get a model that's $100 more that simply doubles the storage and adds a Touch ID button. There are no other options. It's kind of unique for Apple to only offer two options like this instead of a whole menu of choices. Of course, you do have color choices, and we'll get to that a bit too. The ports on the Neo are also unique. Now, Apple's had a variety of different port configurations, including a 12-inch MacBook Pro that only had one USB-C port. The MacBook Neo actually has two, but each one is very different. There's one that's a combination USB 3 and DisplayPort port. So you can use it to hook up a fast peripheral, like a fast drive, or you can hook up an external display. The other one is a slower USB 2 port. You can use this one for charging since data speed doesn't matter for that, or for hooking up any peripheral where it doesn't need anything faster than USB 2 speeds, but you can't hook up a display to that one. It's kind of a unique configuration. The 2020 M1 MacBook Air had 2 ports on it, but they were both the same, not very different like these 2 ports. And also, there's no MagSafe adapter here like the other current MacBooks. You actually charge it by plugging into one of these 2 USB ports, which Apple's done many times over the past with their MacBook line. So that's not too unusual either. Of course, it makes it very easy to charge this. You can use almost any USB-C charger for it. Another big difference that a lot of people haven't picked up on yet is the trackpad is different. This isn't the same trackpad that's on the MacBook Air or MacBook Pro that you would get now. Since 2017, the trackpads in MacBooks don't actually move. They're completely solid. Now they feel like they move because there's haptic feedback. They actually vibrate a little bit when you click them, and it kind of feels like you're pressing down. But they don't actually move. But the Neo's trackpad is a mechanical trackpad. It actually presses down when you press on it. Now, for a lot of normal things, it's not going to make too much of a difference. It should work as you expect. But you don't get haptic feedback, and there's a few apps that will use it, say, as you move over different guides, stuff in image editing apps. And also there's a trick you can do with trackpads where you can press down hard. You can force click to do various things in context with whatever you're clicking on. And this trackpad won't do that. So Apple's cut corners here to have a cheaper trackpad and also one that won't use as much power. But there's another difference about the keyboards. The color of the keyboard matches the color of the case. So you get the indigo MacBook Neo. The keyboard's actually indigo. Apple hasn't done this before. The keyboard's just been, the black keys with the white text on them or whatever the current way they were doing it was. So having the colors match the keys is new. And one of the reasons they may not have been able to do that before, and they can do it now, is there's no backlight for the keyboard for the MacBook Neo. Now, all MacBooks since 2010 have had a backlight. So if you're working in the dark, you can see a glow under the keys. Some people like me rarely ever even notice the backlight as they rarely use their MacBooks in the dark. Others don't actually like this and turn it off. But if you like that as a feature, then you're not going to like that the MacBook Neo doesn't have this. Of course, it saves on production costs not to have that backlight there. And it's also saving on battery, allowing the smaller battery, like I mentioned. And keep in mind, if you've got a desktop Mac and you've got, a regular keyboard, you're used to not having a backlight. So it's not going to make much difference to a lot of people. If you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 3,000 others that support MacMost through Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. Now, about that smaller battery. This is a very small battery for a MacBook. It's a 36.5 watt-hour battery. So it's similar to the 2008 to 2012 MacBook Airs or the more recent 2015 to 2017 12-inch MacBook. Those had a similar size battery, but the difference now is you've got a lot of energy saving going on. You've got this A18 Pro processor, which is very efficient. You don't have the backlight and other things like that. So even with this small battery, you're still supposed to be able to get 11 hours of normal work like web surfing out of the battery. Now, another power related thing is the charger. The charger you get with this is actually the same as the iPhone charger, a 20-watt charger. Apple's never included a charger this week with a MacBook before. Now, no MacBook before has probably ever been this energy efficient with this small of a battery. And of course, when you're traveling, you can pretty much just charge from anywhere like you can with an iPhone. The MacBook Neo doesn't have fast charging like other MacBooks. So even getting a more powerful charger for it isn't going to make it charge faster. But slower charging is going to be one of those sacrifices for the lower price of the Neo. Another difference with the Neo is the notch. The camera notch at the top of the screen of the current MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros isn't there. Or more accurately, it's there. It just goes all the way across the top of the screen as it did for every MacBook before the notch was introduced. You just have a bigger space at the top instead of the left and right sides having more pixels for the screen. The notch hasn't been standard for that long. It was only introduced in 2021, and even in 2022, Apple was coming out with new models without it. Now, in that screen-wide notch or no notch area, however you want to think of it, is of course the webcam. And Apple takes a step back for a cheaper webcam here. It's the 1080p FaceTime HD webcam as compared to the 12 megapixel center stage camera that's in the current MacBook Air, MacBook Pro. Of course, this camera is cheaper and that brings the price down. And it's really not that long ago that we had these. Say the M3 MacBook Air had this, and in 2020 the M1 MacBook Air didn't even have this. It only had a 720p camera. For regular video conferencing needs, it should be fine. But there's actually another kind of camera that's completely missing for the MacBook Air, and that's the ambient light sensor. And this has been around for a while, even predating MacBooks. It was in PowerBooks before that. And the last time Apple actually had a model without one was 2010. And in fact, since 2018, they've all had an advanced ambient light sensor, a true tone sensor. So what does it mean not having any ambient light sensor? Well, this is used for keyboard backlighting, but there's no keyboard backlight, so nothing to miss there. But it's also used for dimming the screen in lower light conditions, so the MacBook Neo simply can't do that. Another unique thing about the Neo is the speakers. Now, there have been a ton of different varieties of speaker configurations. They've been under the keyboard, next to the keyboard, along the sides, along the top. Apple's done a whole bunch of different things. This setup is kind of unique. It's got two, one on each side. Previously, the M1 MacBook Air had two, but they were under the keyboard, and MacBook Pros have side ones, but more of them. So this is kind of a unique array of speakers. But if you really want higher quality, you're probably going to be putting in AirPods or other headphones anyway. And the Neo does come with a headphone jack as well as those two USB-C ports. Now, another way the MacBook Neo is different than all of the MacBooks before is environmental. It's the first MacBook with more than 60% recycled materials. And part of that's due to a low-waste manufacturing process. But another part of that is due to using less materials. Remember, it's a smaller battery. Things like the backlight and the low light sensor and other things are just not present, which means fewer materials are being used to make this. Some of those things actually used a lot of rare materials. So Apple is actually producing an environmentally better MacBook by producing a low-cost MacBook. And finally, I need to mention colors. Now, having multiple color choices is not unique. In fact, the 1999 iBook had multiple colors. It was plastic and it was easy for Apple to give you color choices like the iMac back then. But this is the first MacBook with this specific set of colors, and the choices seem to be things that people are excited about. So as you can see, the MacBook Neo is not just a low-end MacBook Air or rehashing of the standard MacBook from last decade. It's a very different machine. Apple was able to get the price low by making a lot of compromises, but they're hoping that the compromises are in the right places and people will still find lots of good uses for the MacBook Neo. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Okay, that was very good. Explaining the differences. Comments, questions?
Is anybody thinking about getting one of these?
I think this is not aimed for current users like us. It's aimed for switchers. People were buying $500 Windows machines on Windows 10 that don't want to upgrade to 11. That gives them a way to go.
Well, one thing I wonder about, which I don't know if he mentioned, was weight. Is it
Weight's the same, pretty much the same as an M1, as an Air.
okay? So it's pretty heavy then.
Physically, it's not exactly the same size. It's the dimensions are a little bit, and I think the weight is like pretty much the same.
Even with
I
the
think that
lighter.
was probably, if you go back in that chart, we go back a couple of slides. I think that's in that chart. That chart is in the that one of the news articles. Tells you all the different things that are to compare them to an Air. Now, what they said on MacBreak Weekly this morning, which I hadn't heard before, but it made a lot of sense to me, is okay, this basically replaces the M1 MacBook Air, which has been selling at Walmart for $600. But The M4 MacBook Air, which is now discontinued, will be discounted, and you can probably get that for probably $800 with 256 gig and 16 gigs of RAM. So that might be actually a better computer, everything, better ports for all other stuff for somebody like us. I hadn't thought about that before. That's a good point. I think it'll sell like hotcakes. It's already sold out. It's already back ordered for some of the colors with pre-orders, and they're only, and it isn't even out. It's out. People have their hands on it. I don't think the reviewers have their hands on it. I'm not sure when it actually is available in the store. Very shortly. Any other questions, comments? I mean, if you were a Mac person and you have a desktop and this would be great as like a machine, not meant to do hardcore work on, but to take with you and be, cheap and something to do your mail and your web browsing. It has all the Mac features. It does everything that you need. It's just has a lot of stuff that a lot of you don't use a lot.
Yeah, I don't think most of us, I know I don't, utilize enough of my Mac to justify what I have. That sounds like if I was getting a new one or something, I'd definitely consider. I'd be more apt to consider if it was orange than the faded green and the whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Give me a neon green. Give me something that's got color.
Yeah,
But-
they're not very bright colors. It's not cosmic orange
Yeah.
level of intensity.
Yeah, give me cosmic green. I'll live with that, but that looks like split pea soup green.
What Jason Snell said on Mac Break, which he's a heavy user editing podcasts and videos and all kinds of stuff. And he said one thing that he didn't mention, it doesn't have Thunderbolt ports, the fast USB-C size, super fast ports with expensive drives. Well, all the hardcore video editing and stuff, he says he barely uses his Thunderbolt ports on his MacBook Pro. And I have it, and I rarely use it either. So for most people, it probably doesn't make any difference. If you need it, you know it, and you're probably going to get a MacBook Pro and not an Air.
Go ahead, Karen.
Karen's got a question here.
Well, I actually have a comment. I think this is targeted to families with young kids. And,
Students.
yeah, because when you start to get into this price range for people who are upper middle class or higher, this gets a real competitive market now.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's for us. I don't think this is
No.
about us. I think this is about how you're going to get the younger market in here, in a price that's going to be affordable. And I see these going into schools now that normally would get Chromebooks. And I think
Well, they said several things I read. This is not a Chromebook killer. Chromebooks are embedded in schools because the schools buy them, they're dirt cheap, and there's a whole management system where they manage the Chromebooks. So you log in and use it on the web, and you log out, and the next person uses it. And so it's not a personal, it's more like Chromebooks they got it locked in education for the school. Now for home use, you're going to have it at home, that's a different story. So yeah, $500 for educational for a student. It would last them 4 years. There you go.
Yeah, I think you're right, Karen. It's for families with kids at home still.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're going for. That's what they're going with.
I
That's why
was gonna buy one. Now you talked
colors.
me out of it.
Yeah. It's
So-
a very different computer for Apple.
So with Mac OS running on an A16 Pro processor, does that mean that you could run Mac OS on an iPad?
In theory, yeah.
Why would it?
Why would you? I think somebody's already done that. Hacked
Yep.
it. So anyway, it's out there. I think it sounds to me like it's already popular. It's getting rave reviews. It's already back ordered.
Well,
It's
people love Apple. They love the idea of Apple. It's still going to be more expensive than the cheapo, clunky Windows
no,
laptops, and going to be a little more expensive than the Chromebooks. But people are going to want these for various reasons. Some of them are silly, like prestige, but they are going to do things that the school computers can't do.
absolutely. You could do everything a Mac can do. It has every feature that any Mac has.
Yes.
And there's many more people. The number of iPhones vastly outnumber the number of Macs. There's lots of people who don't have Apple desktop Mac, Macs that have iPhones, and that synchronizes. You can do the chat thing, which is huge. You can do the regular chat instead of the Windows chat, and sync with your phone, and all that stuff that we're accustomed to. You can't do with Windows, and they already have the iPhones. They already have the other half.
But the thing that Windows can do that Mac OS cannot do yet is touchscreen applications.
Well, that's
And
not something that the operation can do. That's nothing to do with the operating system. That's hardware.
well, of course, but it's the whole system. So my
Can we move
question
on and
is,
save that
will
for later?
Stay tuned because a MacBook Pro with a touch screen is coming.
Yep, I
Rumored,
saw
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I don't think this is at the price point for students for 500. The Windows computers that are under 500 are plastic and they're junky. You get one that's want something that's quality, you're going to spend $500-600 for a Windows computer.
Yeah, this has a metal case.
It's aluminum. It's like every other MacBook.
Right. And the other ones, these other cheaper computers, they're plastic.
Right. One thing they mentioned on MacBook is, okay, the Windows computers are typically upgradable. You can open them up. You can change the hard drive. You can put more memory in them. This is a completely sealed unit. There's two models. You get what you get. It's like an iPhone or an iPad. You buy it, and that's it. You get what you get, and it lasts for as long as it lasts. But if you're in the iPhone, you have an iPhone, this is going to appeal to people who have iPhones but don't have Macs and are buying another computer. Instead of a Windows computer, this is an option. This is a choice they have now.
So what is the advantage of a metal laptop versus a plastic one?
More durable.
You get why do people have iPhones? Because they look like an iPhone. Everybody knows you have an iPhone. Their quality, well, this is the MacBook. Most people won't be able to tell the difference. There aren't Mac people that it's not just, with an expensive MacBook. It looks just like the rest of them. And you remember when the first iMac came out, the colors were huge. Nobody was doing colors. The colors is a big deal.
Heat transfer too is the advantage of the aluminum case.
It didn't mention, but
Yes.
there's no fan in the thing. It doesn't get hot.
Come on, Dave, let's go. Look at you.
I gotta leave. I've got something else to do early.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right. Any more comments about this? Should we move on to the next thing?
So I actually like the curved shape a little better than the sharp square edges of MacBook Air.
Yeah, so it's still interesting. I think it's from everybody loves it. The reviews are great. So I think it's going to do very well. We'll see. Maybe a whole new market for Apple. Okay. Do we move forward?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Okay, click. Okay. This is a review of the 17E versus the 16E.
It may be Apple's budget phone, but iPhone 17e is now so easy to recommend because of two huge upgrades. Let's talk about it. Real quick, if you want to keep up to date with all of the latest Apple news and reviews, hit that subscribe button. I was always a fan of the iPhone 16e. I thought it was a great value for an iPhone versus buying some of the older models. But it had two big problems that kept me from recommending it. If you followed the channel for a while, you probably know what they are, but I'll tell you towards the end of this video. The newly announced iPhone 17e arrives on scene sporting the same form factor as its predecessor, except now it comes in a new soft pink color alongside white and black. I'm curious, what color would you prefer your perfect iPhone to be? Vote in the comments. I would love a metallic red. It's got a 6.1-inch display, yes, still with a notch at the top. The display is a little stronger though, thanks to Apple's Ceramic Shield 2 coating. This doesn't get enough attention. Ceramic Shield 2 is on the entire iPhone 17 line and it's wild. It does a great job at preventing scratches compared to before. On the back of iPhone 17e is still a 48 megapixel camera that can give you 2 times optical quality photos. One nice thing that Apple did was enable next generation portrait shots. See, with other iPhones, Apple actually uses 2 of the cameras for portrait photography. It uses 2 of the cameras, like your eyes, to capture depth of an image and use this to make a portrait shot with blurred backgrounds. But on a single camera device, like iPhone 17e, Apple has to do this all via software. This capability has slowly gotten better over time. Originally, it wasn't even that good, and for a while, it was limited to just taking portrait photos of people. On iPhone 17e though, Apple is now allowing you to capture even more portrait-style shots, food, pets, as well as people. For regular users, it felt just like such an odd limitation because there was no real explanation for why it didn't or didn't work. This is perfect for keeping that functionality uniform across devices. Perhaps the big change here is with the silicon on the inside. Apple has moved to the A19 chip. It's not exactly the same one found on iPhone 17 though. The iPhone 17e version still has a 6-core CPU, but it has a 4-core GPU rather than a 5-core. Apple often uses bin versions of its chips like this, so I don't consider it really a downgrade since the iPhone 16e didn't have a 5-core GPU either. So you still get a faster processor, just not as graphics heavy as the more expensive phone. Fair. Battery life is rated the same, eking out 26 hours of use, though it will be less if you're using your phone a lot. To me, none of this amounts to any sort of big change. Just little things to keep the budget phone running the latest silicon and enabling the latest features. So what are the 2 big changes? First, storage. Apple upgraded the base storage from 128 gigs to 256 at the same price. I think that's substantial, especially with the cost of storage at the moment. I was just helping my great aunt with her phone, and even she had about 80 gigs of stuff on her phone. And she would tell me she was worried about running out of space, so she was regularly deleting apps and photos. So 128 gigs is not nearly enough for a phone's base storage these days. 256 gigs is much more palatable, and I think it really helps deliver on the value proposition for this device. Finally, Apple added MagSafe. I have no idea how the original iPhone 16e lacked this feature. Seriously, Apple's justification was along the lines of the fact that most people buying the 16e wouldn't use MagSafe. They'd happily plug their phones in at night. But as I said way early on, no way. Apple just crushed it with MagSafe. It's popular. My grandmother uses a MagSafe charger on her nightstand, and I did not recommend it or buy it for her. My mom uses a MagSafe wallet. Everyone I know has a MagSafe car mount or car charger. Clearly, Apple watched my original videos on this matter and decided, hey, Andrew's right, because here it is. There's no 25-watt Qi 2.2 support, but you can still get 15 watts of magnetic wireless fast charging on the iPhone 17e. Not to mention support for all MagSafe accessories, from battery packs to stands to wallets. Let me know in the comments if MagSafe would be a deal breaker for you. Maybe it's just my friends and family that are in love with it. Please, tell me you agree down below in the comments. Just like we talked about in my other video on the M4 iPad Air, the iPhone 17e isn't flashy. It's not a big upgrade from the iPhone 16e like a flagship phone would be. Not so flashy. But people buy these phones, a lot of them. People walk into an Apple store or Verizon and they just want a new iPhone, but they don't want to pay a ton. Especially people who are switching from lower cost Android phones to iPhone. And I think iPhone 17e delivers a lot more value than the iPhone SE used to. It's a great form factor, the latest processor to guarantee it'll run for years. And with double the storage and MagSafe, I have zero issues recommending this phone to people who want that iPhone experience at an affordable price. Let me know your thoughts, good or bad, down in the comments. Otherwise, follow for more Apple news, and I'll see you all in the next video.
There you go.
So what is the cost of the 17E?
Same, $599. Or if you want to get more memory, you can still go up in 512 or 1 terabyte.
Okay.
But it used to cost you more to get 128 to 256, and the price remained the same. So basically, the price went down. Same thing they did to the MacBook Air, raised the memory, but they didn't raise the price on this. I think MagSafe is used for lots of stuff besides charging, for mounting stuff. That's how this camera up here, my phone is on a MagSafe adapter thing that sits on top of the iMac and holds this camera. Works great.
How does it work for charging, John? That's what I was wondering. I don't know about it.
Works for charging. Just the magnet snaps it in place and it just starts charging.
Oh,
Now
do you know how much it retails offhand?
chargers?
The MagSafe is, yeah, it's a charger. Is it
I bought this one here. Can you see this?
yeah.
This does a watch, which I don't have. If you fold this out on Amazon, this was like $15.
Okay, thanks.
There's tons of them on Amazon. It's hard to decide which one to buy. There's all kinds of different form factors, and you don't need a watch. You don't have to get that part. But this one had the watch, and I liked it. And this one also folds. Okay, for
Okay.
travel, you fold this down, throw it in your bag.
Mm.
So
The one you showed, it looked interesting.
I'm happy with this. It works great. There's tons of them though. It's hard to decide which one to get.
MagSafe has another function besides charging,
Yeah,
which
the whole
is
stuff.
so it makes for a great like a holder, like a car holder, a car mount.
Thank you. I was looking
That's
for
what
that
this one
too.
up here. This thing on top of the iMac is holding my iPhone because I'm using this camera on the iPhone because it's better. It just holds it. It's a magnetic holder. There's no charger in it.
And what the magnets are really for is just so when you put a MagSafe charger on it, it gets in the right place. But they're really strong magnets, and it'll hold the phone really well.
Yeah.
So like I have a car mount that isn't a charger, although it could be a charger. But I've never actually charged my phone with a MagSafe charger. But I feel like now I couldn't live without the
Got it.
MagSafe mount.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Yeah.
But
The only-
for charging, what's so much better about that than plugging it in?
Not having to use your electricity.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
it's
still
not-
using electricity.
You're still using electricity.
Yeah, same electricity.
Not directly.
Now
Yes.
it depends on what version of phone you have and what charger you have. There's
True.
different levels of charging. It's like he said, the 17E doesn't have as fast a MagSafe charging as the upper models, and the charger you get needs to support, if you want a fast charging phone, it needs to support fast charging on the MagSafe charger also.
Yeah, I think I just Googled it. It said 12 or higher, and I don't know if that includes SE, but I'll get research. Thanks.
Yeah, pay attention to this, what your phone can do and what charger can do if you want it to do the faster than slower. But I just throw it on overnight. It sits there overnight. I don't care.
To me, the biggest drawback of this phone is it has really old school camera, the single lens. If you like using your phone for photography, this is probably not the phone for you.
But the cover, the dent resistant or scratch resistant cover looked really good.
If you want a better camera, then you got to step up to the 17 for an extra 200. You got multiple cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You have choices.
I want to add to what's advantage what advantages there at a MagSafe charger. Well, the thing is that otherwise you got to plug in that USB 3 or whatever else back and forth into the phone, and after a while some stuff gets in there and you start having problems. This thing, you just put it on, your phone just hangs in there and charges. You don't have to connect anything.
Well, what I like is I used to put it on the cable and lay it on the desk flat, okay? Since I got the mag charger, now it sits up on a stand like this, and something comes in, or I can tap on it and see it. It's like a second screen. I like that better. I didn't think of that until I started using it, and I wouldn't go back.
Mike's got a question.
No,
Yes.
I was just going to comment similar to what Bruce said. You keep plugging that cord in and out, you either get pocket lint in there or the cord starts getting tweaked. Mag chargers don't have that. The only problem I've had with my mag thing on the back of my phone, it picks up paper clips and stuff from my desk.
Oh, thanks.
I'll stand there and I'll pick it up like, what the hell is that razor blade doing on there? Or what's that paper clip doing on there?
Yeah.
But
Well,
price to pay for a lot of convenience.
Well, I had a problem that Bruce told me he had with the office once. I have a couple of MacBooks here, and I'm setting up different stuff. And I picked one up to charge it. That it needed to be charged. It was sitting around a long time. The charger wouldn't go on. I look in there. What's in there? There's a little hunk of metal in the magnet inside the port. I don't know what it was. I don't know what. But as soon as I thought, damn, that's Bruce had told me about that.
One thing to add about MagSafe is if you get a case for your phone, you need to get a case that is MagSafe compatible.
Yeah.
Not all cases do. Yeah. Like if they have this logo on them, and so there's a supplemental magnet in the case itself, so otherwise the case will have the MagSafe charger a little farther away from the phone, and it won't work well, and it won't also stick well. So you just need to make sure that if you are going to be using a MagSafe mount or charger, you want to get a MagSafe
Thanks,
case.
Kenji. Can you see my bag? I make these at home.
Usually if you look at the specs, when you go shopping on Amazon, it'll say, MagSafe compatible or whatever. They'll tout that as a feature. And if you don't like it, you can send it back. Okay, shall we move forward?
Yes.
Okay. Next one, I think this might be the last one.
Apple just announced.
Okay, there was a new M4 iPad Air last week. So this is a little video about, is this worth upgrading from an older iPad, or what's the deal about this? So there we go.
Apple just announced the M4 iPad Air. Here's everything you need to know before picking one up. Real quick, if you want to keep up to date with all of the latest Apple news and reviews, hit that subscribe button. The 8th generation iPad Air is official. The mid-range line of tablets first landed in 2013, and now we have the 2026 model, headlined by the powerful M4 processor on the inside. Let's talk about what's changed and whether or not it's worth upgrading to. To start, the design is basically the same. The M4 iPad Air comes in both 11 and 13-inch sizes with square sides and a landscape center stage camera. Not much different than my old iPad Air here. It still has USB-C to connect all sorts of different peripherals like monitors and chargers, and a single rear-facing camera. Color appears to remain the same, with blue, purple, starlight, and space gray as options. Personally, I want some more vibrant colors in here. Like, come on, Apple. I love this older iPad Air, and I kind of don't want to ditch it because this blue just kind of pops. Let me know down below in the comments what colors you want to see on iPads. Do you want these pastels, or do you want something that is more saturated? I've got to see if I'm the only one here. Storage has carried over with 12 gigs to 1 terabyte as options. The single biggest change is obviously the silicon on the inside. Apple has upgraded from the M3 chip to the M4. This isn't the latest chip that Apple has, as the iPad Pro uses Apple's M5. But it's Apple's usual cadence here. Put the most powerful and newest M series chip in the Pros and then carried on the last gen chip to the updated Air. These are still laptop level chips, so frankly, more power than most people are ever going to need in an iPad. The M4, which has an 8-core CPU and 9-core GPU, Apple says is 30% faster than the last gen iPad Air. On the graphics side, it has 2nd generation hardware accelerated mesh shading and ray tracing for some solid gaming performance, like maybe the new Civ or Rainbow Six that just launched. Apple obviously is also touting the benefits of Creator Studio here. If you have not heard of that, it's Apple's new subscription offering with pro-level video, audio, and Photos app across iPad and Mac. I think the price and features on it is amazing, and if you want to learn more, check out my other video I did. It's very in-depth, and I've linked it for you here. The M4 also has faster memory bandwidth. This has increased 20% from 100 gigabits per second to 120. End result? Higher performance and better multitasking, where apps are able to load faster from the background, or more layers in Pixelmator. This is beneficial too, since Apple updated the memory, now coming with 12 gigs instead of just 8. Apple says this should result in faster AI handling too. My favorite change is probably with the wireless performance though. The iPad Air is getting both the N1 and C1X chips. The former is Apple's networking chip, which handles things like Wi-Fi, while the latter is the cellular modem, if you opt in for the cellular version. That N1 is of particular importance to me. It brings Wi-Fi 7 to the iPad Air for the first time, and Wi-Fi 7 speeds are insane if you have the network for them. I'm so happy to see those speeds coming to the Air. Plus, it's not just Wi-Fi that the N1 does. It also does Bluetooth and Thread. I'm a huge smart home guy, and Thread is a newer wireless protocol used in the smart home. It's already baked into other devices like iPhone, Apple TV, and HomePod. Creates a reliable mesh network throughout your home and allows all these devices to communicate to each other really fast. If you want to learn more about smart home stuff in general, check out my podcast, Smart Home Insider, where I cover news, have exclusive interviews, reviews, and more. For those that opt to the cellular version, it has 5G support, and thanks to the C1X modem, really cool privacy features. On supported carriers, it can limit your device's location data to providers. This is a huge new thing that only Apple is doing and can only be done thanks to its in-house silicon. Only devices with the Apple modems support this. So iPhone 16e, iPhone 17e, M5 iPad Pros, and now the iPad Air too. Honestly though, that's it on iPad Air. You're basically getting a bunch of the latest silicon that boosts performance. Is it worth upgrading to? Well, it depends on what you're using now. If you have an M3 iPad Air, there is basically no world where I'd say you should upgrade to the M4. It's not that huge of an upgrade that you need to abandon your fairly new tablet for it. If you need better performance that much, you probably should have just jumped to the iPad Pro in the first place or when the new ones came out. But if you have an M1 iPad Air or just an entry-level iPad, and you want to do more? Absolutely. This tablet has repeatedly been refined and is going to be fast, reliable, and serve you for years to come. M4 iPad Air will be up for pre-order on March 4th and begin shipping on March 11th. I'll put links down below in the description with any launch deals and ongoing deals as we find them. Otherwise, follow for more Apple news.
Comments, questions?
Okay, see, now we're back where the video is off.
Comments, questions about the iPad Air? I think that's the last video. Yeah, it is. Anybody? Comments, questions? Anything else about we talked about today? Or we can go to general Q&A and start a new recording. No? Can anybody hear me? You're out there?
Oh, yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, we
Okay.
hear you.
All right. Not
Yeah,
hearing
well,
anything. I'll move on
All right,
then, huh?
I was trusting somebody else to speak up. I can hear you.
All right. Let's go. Anybody watching this on YouTube, the DVMUG members can get the next recording for general Q&A with a link on the DVMUG BBS. Okay, I will stop the recording. Okay, stop recording.